And now, the best 60-ish seconds of your week. And since we last spoke, it has not been all good news for the home team. First of all, my beloved Phillies fall in 6 to the Houston Astros. Not any great shocker there, but nevertheless, a little moment of sadness. And I want those Phillies to pick up that Jeremy Pena, the MVP, a rookie for the Houston Astros, MVP of the series, and one heck of a ball player. The Phillies did their part. When I was talking about them making the playoffs this summer, a lot of friends scoffed and said, if they do, they'll lose in the first round. They took it all the way to the World Series and had a really great season. And frankly, they lost to a better team, so we'll move on. And then we lost daylight savings time, maybe the worst day of the year for me, because I'm a man who loves sunshine and warm. And now we're moving into the cold days of winter. I'll get past that too. I'm a Pennsylvanian to the core. And then the results of election 2022. And they were not what many of us had hoped for. Frankly, with the tailwinds that were blowing across the country, with an economy in the shambles, inflation driving costs up through the roof, families struggling to pay for gasoline for their cars and groceries for their dinner table and pay for the home heating oil for the winter, etc. It looked like that, together with crime in the streets and a crisis at the southern border, created like the perfect storm for major Republican victories across the country and here in my home state of Pennsylvania. And so it appears that Republicans will recapture control of the House of Representatives, a big victory in and of itself, although not by the margins that many thought. I mean, there were folks out there predicting 240 seats for the Republicans, maybe even higher than that. I was a little bit lower than that in my thoughts, but 218 is the magic number, and it certainly appears as though the Republicans will take that number and have the ability to control the House of Representatives. Meanwhile, on the other side of the building, the results are still in the balance, with some states still counting their votes and the runoff scheduled for December 6th down in Georgia, a system that still makes many people scratch their heads, is likely going to control or determine who has the actual control of the U.S. Senate. And some interesting footnotes to the election 2022. My two favorite, Georgia governor's race, Texas governor's race. In Texas, Robert Francis O'Rourke, he wants people to call him Beto. I have no idea why. There's not an ounce of Latino in him. Lost for the third time in 4 years, spending tens of millions of dollars to lose by almost 1 million votes. And yet, you can be assured he'll be back on the ballot again, grifting the people of Texas and folks across the country for millions and millions of dollars to run again, because we've fallen into this celebrity culture, which permeates even into our politics. And in Georgia, Stacey Abrams, the #1 election denier in the country. Remember this, she still hasn't conceded the race from 4 years ago when she lost to incumbent Governor Brian Kemp. This time she lost by several 100,000 votes. So maybe she'll get around to actually conceding both elections, but both those candidates kind of had to make you smile on Wednesday morning. And just a couple of other interesting footnotes from Tuesday's election past. In Maricopa County, Arizona, and across the state, they're still counting votes. How that is possible is beyond the comprehension of many, and it gives rise to claims of fraud and irregularities and other things. It's really remarkable that a state like Florida, several times larger than Arizona, can count their votes in a matter of hours, and yet it takes Arizona several days to count through theirs, with significant seats, most notably their U.S. Senate seat, hanging in the balance. And up in New York State, Sean Patrick Maloney, the head of the Democrat Party's campaign operation in the House of Representatives, in effect their campaign manager, lost his seat. The first time that's happened in 30 years. And an interesting side note to campaign 2022. And the whole issue of early voting comes up again. In my state of Pennsylvania, there was a disastrous debate for John Fetterman, who eventually emerged as the winner in the U.S. Senate race there. But 600,000 votes had already been cast when that debate was held. Most of them, by the registration of those who cast them, were cast for John Fetterman. Would there have been a change had those votes come in after that debate? Don't know, but it's certainly a point of discussion. And Republicans continue to win overwhelmingly in votes cast on Election Day, roughly 60 to 40 across the country. And despite the fact, as I said early in today's Best 60 Seconds, that all the tailwinds indicated big wins for Republicans with rampant crime, huge problems with inflation, and a southern border out of control, and the country saying by 3-1 margins that we were on the wrong track, that the country was headed in the wrong direction, Republicans still underperformed in an awful lot of places. So, quite bluntly, our party has to have a conversation with itself, an honest, open discussion about what our message really is and is going to be, who our messengers are going to be to carry that message, and how we're going to reinvigorate the folks who do the blocking and tackling, the hard work at the grassroots to turn out the vote and to persuade voters to go with our party in future elections. That's a big challenge, and it's one that we have to undertake with a very open mind and open hearts and a real discussion, because when we have that discussion and can figure out what the best messages are, who the best messengers will be, and how we support them with troops on the ground, money to fuel the campaigns, the results, I believe, will be very, very different. And final footnote, for those who say the Republicans are the party of the rich, the exit polls revealed something very fascinating this time around. Those whose income would qualify them as super rich voted overwhelmingly Democrat. Those who would be considered wealthy, upper middle class, again, voted Democrat. You've got to move down to those who are identified by income as middle class, lower middle income, and even quote unquote poor. That's where the Republican vote is now coming from. The Republican Party truly is a party of working families. I believe that's a good thing, because that's where the most votes are. We've simply got to give people a reason to vote for conservative Republicans in the days to come. And then we will have truly the best 60 seconds of your week.